Have you ever stopped to think about what it truly means to love yourself? I'm not talking about superficial love, the kind that depends on others' approval. I'm talking about a deep, unshakable love that comes from your most authentic essence. Carl Jung teaches us that true transformation begins when we stop seeking outside what we already carry within. Yet many people don't know how to access this inner truth. They live trapped by conditioning, trauma, and the expectations of others. We often spend our lives trying to fill a void we don't fully understand. We look for relationships to feel complete, for acceptance to feel validated, and for external achievements to feel worthy. But what happens when we get all of that and still feel like something is missing? What happens when we realize none of these things truly bring the peace we're searching for? Jung would say that this emptiness isn't a problem, it's a call from your unconscious, trying to tell you something you haven't had the courage to listen to. We're taught that self-love comes from taking care of ourselves, respecting and valuing who we are. But rarely are we told that it also requires facing the darkest parts within us. Loving yourself isn't just about embracing who you are when you're happy, motivated, and successful. It's also about holding space for your pain, your flaws, your fears, and your shadows. According to Jung, the shadow is that part of us we avoid, reject, and refuse to admit exists. But as long as you keep ignoring it, it won't disappear. On the contrary, it will show up in your relationships, your choices, and in the situations that hurt you the most. How many times have you felt drawn to people who didn't truly value you? How often have you found yourself repeating the same patterns of suffering, even though you knew it wasn't what you wanted for your life? This isn't a coincidence. The unconscious works quietly, guiding your decisions until you finally look inward and face what needs to be healed. True self-love doesn't come from pride, an inflated ego, or the need to prove something to others. It's born from a deep connection with your essence. It emerges when you allow yourself to be who you really are, without fear of judgment, without the need to fit into standards that don't make sense to you. Jung teaches us that individuation, the process of becoming your truest self, is the most important journey in life, but also the most challenging. It means letting go of illusions, cutting ties with relationships that no longer make sense, and breaking free from beliefs that were imposed on you. Above all, it means accepting that your happiness doesn't depend on anything external. Take a moment to reflect on this. What are you still holding on to that you should have let go of by now? What relationships, beliefs, or patterns are still holding you back? We often fear the emptiness that may arise when we let something go, but sometimes that emptiness is exactly where healing begins. But Jung reminds us that this emptiness is not something to be feared. On the contrary, it is a sacred space where new things can bloom. The truth is, when you truly love yourself, your energy shifts, your perspective on life transforms. You stop settling for less than you deserve. You no longer tolerate what hurts you. You stop depending on others' validation to feel good about yourself. The right people start to appear. Opportunities that once seemed impossible begin to unfold. As Jung used to say, what we project onto the external world is nothing more than a reflection of our inner world. When you align with your essence, the universe responds. But to get there, you must be willing to take a deep dive within yourself, to face your shadows, accept your vulnerabilities, and stop running away from who you are. That's where true transformation happens. It doesn't occur overnight. There are no magic formulas. It comes from a genuine commitment to yourself. The question is, are you ready for this encounter with your true essence? Maybe you've never thought about it this way, but every time we run from ourselves, we create a reality where pain and dissatisfaction keep repeating. Jung teaches that everything we reject within us eventually manifests in our external world, and it's no coincidence. If you've ever felt trapped in relationship patterns that always seem to end the same way, if you've noticed certain emotions keep returning, even when the circumstances change, it means there's something inside you asking to be seen. Ignoring it only makes these lessons repeat in increasingly intense ways. The unconscious doesn't give up on you. It will keep placing in your path what you need to integrate. You can run for a while, distract yourself with work, new people, or fleeting pleasures. But sooner or later, the truth always comes back. That's why self-love is much more than just self-care or putting yourself first. It's a commitment to truth, a commitment to look at yourself honestly and recognize where you've been sabotaging your own happiness. Jung used to say that the more we avoid our shadows, the more we become prisoners to them. That's why, so often, when we try to ignore something that hurts, the pain only grows. We don't find freedom by running from it. We find it by facing it head-on. And that can be terrifying, because it means admitting that many of the choices we made weren't out of love but out of fear. It means recognizing that, in many moments, we settled for less than we deserved because we didn't believe we could have something better. It means understanding that many of our wounds weren't caused by others but by ourselves, by allowing situations that hurt us. This realization can be painful, but it is also liberating. When you understand that you placed yourself in certain situations, you also realize that you have the power to get out of them. You no longer need to hold on to stories that no longer make sense. You don't have to keep repeating cycles that should have ended long ago. You have the power to change, to choose differently, to create a reality where you put yourself first, not out of selfishness, but out of awareness. When you truly love yourself, you realize your energy is precious and should not be wasted on what drains you. You learn to say no without guilt. You learn to walk away from what doesn't serve you without fear. You begin to understand that love isn't about waiting for others to treat you well. It's about treating yourself well first. And this transformation happens from the inside out. You don't need to announce to the world that you love yourself. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. When this transformation happens, it is felt. Your posture changes. Your presence becomes stronger. Your energy speaks for itself. The people who once treated you poorly, who took advantage of your kindness, will begin to notice this change. Some will distance themselves because they can no longer manipulate you. Others will try to pull you back to who you used to be. But there will be those, the ones who truly resonate with your frequency, who will be drawn closer to you. And that's how your reality begins to change. Jung once said that what we deny within ourselves doesn't disappear. It simply gains power over us. And the opposite is also true. What we accept and integrate becomes our greatest strength. So what will you choose? Will you keep running from your truth, or will you finally face yourself head-on? When you finally decide to confront yourself, something inside you begins to shift. At first, it may be uncomfortable. You might feel resistance, fear, or even a sense of melancholy when you realize how many things you accepted for so long without questioning. But this phase is essential. It's the moment when you start to clearly see what you once preferred to ignore. Jung teaches that this is the key to true transformation, awareness. Because what you don't see controls you, but what you bring into the light loses its power over you. Have you ever noticed how certain situations seem to repeat themselves in your life, like endless cycles? Relationships that start well but always end the same way. People who keep entering your life, triggering the same wounds and feelings. This isn't a coincidence. It's your unconscious showing you where you still need to grow. You can blame others. You can call it bad luck. You can believe the problem is with the world around you. But none of that will set you free. The only thing that can truly free you is taking responsibility, not in the sense of guilt, but in the sense of power. Because when you understand that everything happening outside is a reflection of what's happening inside, you realize you have the power to change. But this change doesn't come from empty promises or superficial attempts. It comes from deep inner work, from a genuine commitment to yourself. When you truly love yourself, you no longer allow just anything into your life. You don't settle for emotional crumbs. You don't accept less than you deserve. And this shift doesn't happen because you become cold or insensitive. It happens because you become aware of your worth. That's when something magical happens. When you stop accepting what doesn't serve you, when you let go of what no longer resonates with your truth, the universe begins to deliver better things. The right people, those who truly see you, start to enter your life. Opportunities that once seemed impossible begin to appear, because when you change on the inside, everything around you changes too. But for that to happen, you must be willing to transform, to abandon old patterns, to let go of stories that no longer make sense. And it won't be easy. Some goodbyes will hurt, some changes will bring fear. But as Jung reminds us, true transformation is born out of chaos. Before we find real peace, we must go through the storm of self-discovery. The truth is, not everyone is ready for this. Many people prefer to keep living on autopilot, settling for a life that doesn't reflect who they truly are. But you don't have to be one of those people. You can choose differently. You can choose to be free. You can choose to truly love yourself And when you make that choice, your life transforms in ways you never imagined. Maybe right now you're wondering, where do I start? Can I really love myself after spending so long believing I needed others' approval, that I had to fit in to feel whole? The answer is within you. But to find it, you must be willing to face everything you've been ignoring for so long. Carl Jung teaches us that inside each of us, there are dormant parts, aspects of our personality that were rejected, denied, or repressed. Everything you once felt but couldn't express, everything you wanted to be but were too afraid to show the world, remains alive in your unconscious. True self-love begins when you decide to rescue those lost parts. How many times have you caught yourself trying to please others, even when it went against your own will? How many times have you molded yourself to be accepted, to avoid conflict, to make sure you weren't rejected? And how many times has that left you feeling empty, disconnected from who you really are? That's the cost of living for others. You can search for love in another person. You can seek recognition at work. You can try to find meaning in material achievements. But none of that will ever be enough until you allow yourself to be who you truly are. And being who you are doesn't just mean showing your strengths, your qualities, and your best side. It also means accepting your weaknesses, your imperfections, and your vulnerability. It means looking at your pain and learning from it instead of hiding it. It means recognizing that you don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. The problem is that we grew up believing we have to deserve love, that we need to do something to be valuable. But Jung shows us that this is one of the greatest illusions. Your worth is not in what you do, in what you have, or in how much you please others. Your worth is in your existence, in the simple fact that you are who you are. And the moment you truly understand this, you are set free. Because when you genuinely love yourself, you stop begging for love. You stop accepting the bare minimum. You stop settling for what hurts you. You begin to understand that your presence is a gift, and any person, situation, or relationship that doesn't recognize that doesn't deserve a place in your life. But this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience. It takes courage. It demands that you let go of what isn't real so you can finally find yourself. It requires you to stop searching outside for something that can only be found within. And that's the hardest part. Trusting that everything you need to feel whole is already inside you. When you finally realize this, the world around you begins to change, not because your external circumstances instantly transform, but because your perception of them shifts. What once seemed essential no longer holds the same importance. What once caused pain and attachment is now seen as a lesson. This is the true awakening of self-love. The moment you understand that your peace doesn't depend on anyone or anything outside of you. But to reach this state, you must go through the discomfort of transformation. Jung teaches us that real growth happens when we confront our shadow, that part of ourselves we reject, deny, or try to hide. And self-love isn't just about embracing what is beautiful in you, it's also about accepting what is imperfect. Denying your shadow doesn't make it disappear. It simply shows up in unconscious ways, sabotaging your relationships, your decisions, and your happiness. That's why so many people remain trapped in repetitive patterns, in relationships that hurt, in situations that drain their energy. It's not because they're unlucky or because life is unfair. It's because they're stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage they can't see. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And that truth is powerful because the life you're living today isn't just a series of random events. It's a reflection of what you carry within you. If you're still accepting less than you deserve, if you still struggle to say no, if you still feel the need to prove something to others, it doesn't mean you can't change. It simply means there's something inside you that needs healing. And that healing doesn't come from outside, not from a new relationship, a new job, or a fresh start. It comes from within. From the decision to look at yourself with honesty, compassion, and courage. And when this inner shift happens, something incredible occurs. You stop feeling the need to fit in. You stop worrying so much about what others think. You stop depending on external validation to feel good about yourself. And this freedom is what allows you to build a life that truly makes sense to you. The right people start to appear when you stop desperately seeking them out and instead become someone who naturally attracts that energy. Opportunities also appear, but not because the world around you has changed, but because you have changed the way you position yourself in it. That is true transformation. something that starts from within and is reflected in everything around you. When you realize this, you understand that you no longer need to chase after love. When you truly love yourself, love simply finds you. You no longer need to prove your worth, because when you recognize it internally, the world begins to respond accordingly. You stop holding on to what is not good for you, because when you trust your path, everything that is not aligned with your essence naturally dissolves. But to experience this change, you need to make choices. Choose to abandon the illusions that hold you back. Let go of what no longer makes sense, and trust that the universe will always take you to the right place. Choose to love yourself, respect yourself, and allow yourself to be exactly who you are. And this, perhaps, is the most powerful decision you can make. When you make this choice, you realize that you never needed anything external to feel complete. Everything you were looking for, love, acceptance, recognition, was always inside you, waiting to be seen. But to see it, you had to go through all the experiences, pain, and challenges that brought you here. Nothing happened by chance. Every moment had the purpose of reconnecting you with yourself. Psychiatrist Carl Jung said that the process of becoming who we truly are, the journey of individuation, is not an easy or linear path, but it is the only one that is truly worthwhile. Living a life that does not reflect who you truly are, that ignores your essence and leaves you empty, is not living. It is simply existing, and you are not here to simply exist. You are here to experience, to grow, and to live fully. This transformation begins now, not when you have more money, more time, or when circumstances are perfect. The perfect moment never comes. What does come is the decision, and that decision is in your hands. You can keep waiting for something to change out there, or you can choose to change within. And when you change, everything around you starts to change too. That's why I invite you to take this first step. Look within, recognize your worth, embrace your shadow, and stop accepting less than you deserve. Trust that the love you seek is already within you. Live with more awareness, authenticity, and presence, creating a life that truly makes sense to you. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who also needs to hear it. The more people awaken to this truth, the more the world changes. And of course, leave your comment. I want to know what touched your heart the most and what was the greatest insight you had. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, take the opportunity to subscribe and activate notifications. This way, you'll receive more content that will help you with your self-knowledge and personal growth. Remember, when you position yourself authentically, the universe will take care of aligning the rest. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.